All right. So here's our agenda. We got wins of the week. Amanda's got some stuff on Fortify. Leron's got some stuff on search parameters. Ben and I are going to talk about a workshop we're looking to do to get your feedback. And then got some stuff on the week in cyber, mainly around the Verizon data breach report. Wanted to review some things with that. So with that, Chip, any fun wins for you this week?
Any fun wins for me? So, well, there's something that I would consider a win, and then there's other stuff that I would consider fun. I'm happy to cover both if you want.
Yes, please. Of
So
course.
we had a very interesting call yesterday with a partner who never attends these our weekly meetings, and it was a win for me in the sense that I had an eye-opening experience about how important um, onboarding and training is for SaaS Alerts. I mean, I always think that we've done a great job in it, and I was somewhat humbled in this call. Now, admittedly, this is a person who admitted up front that they actually didn't really participate in anything, and they didn't respond to alerts from the MSA team that they had had a problem, and so on and so forth. Um, but rather than look at that and say, oh, well, this guy's, it's all his fault, what his problems were, it just pushes across to me even more that we have to continue to reinforce and get better how essential it is. Like the tool itself has become very complex. You guys who are first generation Sazzlers customers, you know how complex it's become from where it was. And we really can't even allow someone to just drop it in, start loading up organizations and think that everything's going to be okay and they don't have to pay attention to it. So that was a win, a personal win in the sense that I needed reinforcement that we have to do even more than we've done to get people onboarded properly, to encourage people to participate in this, because I think there's so much good information that gets passed around in this call, not just Sazzler's information. Now,
A
on the fun
political
side, I'm back in
history,
Vegas for
right, Chip?
what's that?
A political history as well.
Yeah, that's true. And economics, we do cover it all.
So Chip, along those lines, does that suggest then when somebody signs that you require X amount of training before you'll engage or turn the product on to protect from impending failure?
Um, It's interesting that you phrase it that way, Gary, because that is actually one of the first takeaways that ran through my head after we completed the call. Because I don't think any of you, or not many of you, came on in the era where we were charging a mandatory onboarding fee. And really, the only reason we did it is to make sure that people went through onboarding. Yeah, you're way before that, Gary. I think almost everyone on this call is. Um, and it was to make sure that they showed up for onboarding, right? Like Anthony, who's for some reason taken himself off camera, was very key to the start of this. We brought him in as really our first sales engineer, and he became an onboarding specialist, and then Ben followed on, and so on and so on. But I don't know if we can go that far, Gary. Like there's a tension, right, between actually getting people to buy and use your product and making it so challenging for them to start that they don't even want to try. So I don't know the answer yet. I haven't sorted it out. I do know that we have to find a way to provide. We have to find a way to not take no for an answer. That's what I think our mistake as an org was. Somebody that just kept not responding, and they did load up a bunch of customers and they had all kinds of events, and they just stopped responding to the onboarding path that we tried to put them on, and we allowed that to happen. It's very easy when you're super busy to, shrug your shoulders as an organization. I'm not talking about any individual and say, well, the person's not going to respond, so it's on them. And
We've done it as an MSP. When somebody signs up and says, we want to put on zero trust. Call. Yeah, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. At some point, you sometimes throw up your hands and say, yeah, we're not going to keep chasing.
yeah, you move on. So it's a challenge. Um,
Chip, I want you to continue, but this is going to be a good segue when we get to the conversation we had in Vegas, me, you, and Ben, on a training certification
Yep.
process different, maybe different levels, different, so I don't want to steal your thunder. I want you to continue. Andy, do you have a question for Chip?
I do, Chip. What about having the business owners have a place to go where they could review the whys of SaaS Alerts analysis, SaaS Alerts reporting, SaaS Alerts Fortify, SaaS Alerts Unify, SaaS Alerts IOC, so that they don't necessarily need to know the details, but why it's important to do this, and that could be used to drive education within the firm itself.
It certainly can't hurt, Andy. I mean, I know in this case it wouldn't have helped because the person is, if they're not going to respond to like direct outreach and telephone calls, I doubt they're going to read anything.
I'm
But
thinking video content on
oh,
a
yeah,
place.
yeah. Well, I'm sure we have all of that content built already. We just haven't titled it and labeled it that way and packaged it and said, you know what? Now that you've signed up, go and watch these three-minute videos. Invest
Yep.
9 minutes of your life in understanding the context of what you're about to do. That if that's what you're saying, it's a great idea.
And I say use Enrique's testimonials around what SaaS Alerts has done when they, as examples, right? Here's real examples for it.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. We will work on getting better at packaging that up.
Okay.
And I assume they turn down managed because that's how you could run it without having to be too
That's right.
involved.
No, this includes managed. Then that's the
Oh,
paid.
wow.
Like they basically ignored all of the managed onboarding, most of it, and that's what's mind-boggling about it. Because the team was reaching out to them and we were sending them events, like they had compromise events, and we're sending them along, and they just, you know, until it blew up in their face with a customer, that's when it got interesting. Um, so
By the way, Chip, you're not the only one. Like, MSP will go nameless, but 2 years ago, there was a big MSP running SentinelOne. Very similar analogistic situation. SentinelOne's doing their job, sending them alerts, alert, alert, alert. Customer finally, went down. They're like, what's going on? They're like, SentinelOne's like, we've been sending you alert after alert after alert after alert. You're doing nothing about, so yeah, you're not the only one to be in this situation.
yeah, I get it. I mean, look, it's happened more than once in my career in other businesses. And the lesson I always take away from it is that we all have accepted the mantle. We've said it many times in this call. We exist to protect our customers and their users from themselves. And if we can do more in this kind of scenario to accomplish that, then we have to. So
Yeah.
Enrique had his hand up.
A quick question, Chip. I'm curious, what size of MSP are they?
The, they're pretty significant in their market. They're not in a huge market, but they're pretty significant in their market.
Okay, thanks.
So, I come away with those things. Oh, with I'll be completely transparent and honest. My initial reaction was, oh my God, what a knucklehead or a group of knuckleheads. But, when I get past that, I realize that this is actually on us. Like we can't allow it to happen. We have to find a way to get through. So that's how I internalize things. So that's my win.
When you talk about accountability, so from sitting on the other side of the table, you sent them invitations and whatnot. Did anybody pick up the phone and said, you guys have a problem?
No, because that's not what MSA does. It's not a service that we provide.
No,
And
but you're talking about a situation where you recognized a breakdown in communication because people aren't responding. I get emails every day that I don't respond to.
Yep.
And because they're overwhelming. But if you knew that there's a situation, maybe you take that extra step to say, hey, you guys have a problem. We need to talk about it. And, try to get that a little bit more personal. And maybe that would help you. Maybe that would.
It would help in these situations. And this does not happen often in our community. And I mean, in terms of my direct involvement, this is the worst I've ever seen in terms of passiveness on the part of a partner. So it's not something that we're accustomed to, but you're absolutely right, Gary. We could easily set ourselves with a policy, say, look, if we have somebody hasn't gone through SaaS Alerts onboarding completely and has signed up for MSA, or this is going to apply to Kaseya Sim, whatever, and they've continually not completed anything, and we're 8 weeks past their purchase date. They've loaded up a bunch of customers. We have to find a way to politely force ourselves upon them to get it done.
Yeah, and maybe somewhere in, the, process, the onboarding process, Chip, it's like, look, you either, you opt in or out, meaning you're opting in for, if you ignore critical alerts and events, we will take action. Our SOC will start to take action, reaching out to you. And by the way, that's an upcharge. Option A, right? Because it's going to cost you money now to start pulling your team to actually do, really a white glove service. Option B is, nope, we're fully responsible in the event. We're not going to pay more. Okay, great. And then you've given them the option, and you've shared with them, look, we're going to be sending you critical events. We're going to send you critical alerts. These are the two options you have.
Yeah. I mean, I think we do that already when people go through onboarding. It's just, we don't take the same approach with our customers that we've taught our entire MSP community to take with theirs, which is, you remember the Microsoft coverage notification thing that we put together, and a lot of our partners use it successfully, right? Mr. Customer, we're adding this service. It's going to cost you X. If you decline it, we're not accountable for anything. And here's what you're up against with Microsoft licensing terms. That's been wildly successful in helping our partners grow their business on the SaaS Alert side. We don't do anything like that with our partners. We don't say to them, look, if you want to ignore us, if you don't want to do onboarding, then that's fine. You're gonna sign off on it, and it's gonna go in a file. And when things do go sideways, we'll help you as time permits, but we're not gonna hold your hand unless and until you get the training that you need to use the tools, or you respond to us in an MSA scenario and say, yes, I want to do these things, and here's how I want to configure it. So I don't like that. It's hard for me to treat peers. I consider all of our customers peers. We're all on this journey together, right? Everyone is really invested in security, and it's hard for me to feel like we would need to treat peers and colleagues that way. But maybe that's what we do. I don't know the answer yet. But you asked for the win, so the win was I had a lot of self-reflection after what I've come to realize was a very important call.
Very cool. You were going to say something else, and also you had something else.
Well, you said, what was your fun win for the week? And I had to separate the two out. I am having a fun week. I'm hanging out with my brother in Vegas, we tacked on an extra concert last night. We went and saw Santana. And now I got 4 nights in a row of seeing Dead and Company, which has been like at the Sphere, which has been a bucket list thing for us to do together for a while. So that's the fun. I'm working during the day and catching some music at night.
Which hotel are you staying at?
None. I do not like the hotel scene in Vegas. So we are in a resort out in the desert.
Oh, okay. Outways.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm looking through my email, but I don't see an invite, Chip. Maybe it's in something.
Oh, Andrew, if I had to put the trip together, if I was the driving force here, but I'm tacking on to my brother's trip.
Very
Andrew, I
cool.
found mine in the junk mail. Check your spam.
Okay. Yeah, that's
That's funny. So any other wins?
yeah. Who else has got some wins for the week? Thanks for kicking it off, Chip. That's good stuff of self-reflection.
Let's hear for some good wins.
Yeah,
Some compromises that got detected, and some customers that were made happy. And
Oh, we had a good win. Outside of the usual, everything's quiet, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
But we had one of the SaaS alert rules that we pulled from the Discord. That's the malicious OAuth apps. It fired against one of our co-managed customers, so no automated remediations or anything. But we got the ticket, able to contact them and be like, "Hey, this is what's going on. We need to take a look at this." Was able to work through, get rid of the perfect data software. We got the account that had added it, flushed, reset, passwords, MFA, and all that to make sure that it was secure. And then that opened up the opportunity for us to start conversations about doing some hardening for their tenant. So they're going to be talking to their account manager for stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Interesting, Sam, that we just talked about. Do you remember, were you on last week when we
That was here.
Ben brought up the perfect data?
Because they renamed, right?
Yes.
This wasn't the rename. It was just Perfect Data Software.
Is Ben on?
I don't think Ben is here. I was looking for his name today.
Oh, Ben and Liron are working on super secret big stuff in the background today, so I'm pretending to be Liron when that part comes up.
Okay.
You have to stand up and say, I'm in control here, Adam.
I'm in control. I don't even know the reference, but I'll have to look it
You
up.
joined late.
You know, your sign
I was
behind
in,
you
I
is pretty
saw
cool.
it. I wasn't old enough to know.
Ah, okay. One of those.
Right. Hey, Zach, how about you guys? You guys got a few endpoints you're watching. Anything funky and exciting in your world?
No, nothing specific. Just the usual rules firing off pretty regularly.
Got it. Got it. Who else? Anyone else got anything good to talk about this week?
I have a little one, just personal motivation. At this event I'm at, I met a $140 million MSP a year and an $80 million MSP a year, sitting at the same table at breakfast, and then the smallest MSP at the event. So now I have focus.
You got a goal and a target.
Which event are you at?
Lion Guard WorkCon.
Oh, Rockron. Okay.
I also
Perfect.
met someone from CIS. That's great content. Charity,
Who?
I think.
Oh,
is her
Charity
name?
Otwell.
Yes,
She's awesome.
yes,
Say hi to
yes.
her for me.
I will.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Good. All right. Anything else on the win side? No? Okay. Let's move on to Miss Amanda. Are you with us on Fortify benchmarks?
Yes, I am.
Right.
So let me share my screen.
Sure.
All right, do you guys see the Fortify dashboard?
Hmm.
All right, great. So Fortify snapshots has been released, so you should all see the snapshot part in the top selection bar. And so that was the first part of this new release for Fortify. And so what you have there, if you guys all remember, was the ability to create a snapshot of conditional access policies from a Microsoft tenant, bring that down, and then be able to apply it to additional organizations. So the second part of this snapshot release is being able to then see that as a benchmark across your organizations. So on the dashboard, you'll see that we've moved the secure score underneath the name of the organization. So that information is all still there, not lost. You'll still get your bar, the percentage, what gap you have with the gray, kind of indicating what further you could do. But what we've done is we've added a benchmark column and we've renamed the template column to template and snapshots. And so from the top section of the screen, you have this new add benchmark. And here's going to be a list of the different snapshots that you've created. And so we're in our dev environment, so I don't have a ton of data to play with. But as an example, you would pick the snapshot that you want to benchmark against. And even if it has not been applied yet, it's going to show you how it matches. So if it has the policy applied, but not via the snapshot, it's still going to go out and connect and see that and let you know. So in this case specifically, you can see this benchmark is 1 out of 1, but in the template and snapshot column, you can see there's no templates and no snapshots mentioned. But on this one down here, you can see it's a 0 out of 1, and you get the indication that a snapshot has been applied. And so you're going to be able to see from this dashboard kind of at a quick glance if you want to then apply that snapshot or not. and if the snapshot's out of compliance. And that's also what this red indicator is here. It's letting you know that there's a sync issue with the snapshot that is connected to that organization. If there is not a sync issue, that's one snapshot will not appear in red. It'll show up in black as well. You can add multiple benchmarks. So as you add them, you can see it'll keep stacking. It'll do up to 3 in that box before it'll give you like a +1 symbol if you start adding more. I'm not sure if you can see because I have the little people panel, but as I start adding them over from the right-hand side, you can see it's going to start adding these benchmarks as well. And what it's doing over on the right-hand panel is giving you the perspective based off of all of your connected orgs over here. So how are you as a partner benchmarking against that snapshot? Whereas individually here, it is the organization against that snapshot. And so in the case of if you want to figure out like, oh, this is 0 out of 2, do I really want to apply this or not apply this? You can click on the golden tenant or the name of the benchmark, I should say. And what you're going to get are the benchmark details then. So you can see if there was any drift, on what dates, what happened with the policies being captured. They're being applied every 24 hours. So it should be self-correcting drift. Only if there's an outstanding problem with a policy, and that'll be in the sync history, would there be a reason that it's not continuously applied. And so the drift chart here will show you if it's come out of compliance, and then it should show where it goes back up into compliance. You can change the date range, it defaults to the last week. You can also edit the snapshot directly from in here. So if when reviewing this, reviewing the policies, seeing what's here, if you need to add something, change something, you can actually click the edit button and directly move into the edit snapshot from there. Andy, I see your hand up, but let me just finish going through a couple other points. The other item that is different is that, so like I said, snapshots and templates has been added to show you the snapshot and the template. So if you click the edit button, it'll actually give you the option of picking whether you want to edit your template or edit your snapshot. And again, the update snapshot is going to bring you to this panel where you can then pick which snapshot you want to modify. Cancel it, unapply it, apply it again, etc. Delete it means unapply here. So you can do all the functionality from within this screen instead of having to navigate over to the snapshot screen if it has been already applied. Yes, Andy, what's your question?
The description that you have when you select a snapshot, that's a maximum length. It looks like maybe 25 characters. If I want to add a further info about the snapshot, so like who created it, what's the purpose, what does this meet to, could that be something that is added in as a enhancement to that snapshot so that we know, hey, this was created as of this date to solve this issue?
Yeah, so on the snapshots panel itself, you get all that information here. There's the description field where you can add why you've created it, what it pertains to. You'll get who created it, and you'll get the creation date.
Great.
The dashboard is giving you that succinct view as to how it compares the benchmarking. You want more specifics, that's what the panel is to show the policies per se, but then you can always go over to the snapshot page to get more detail.
It'd be interesting to have the snapshot tell us what it should increase the score by. So,
so again, the snapshot is different, as in it's going to compare itself to how it relates to the snapshot, right? The benchmark is showing you how many policies have been applied out of the snapshot. The secure score will continue to update if there's any impact on the secure score, and you'll always be able to see that.
and that's once every 24 hours, right? On the score?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
It's once every 24 hours on the score. Is that correct?
Yes, so, but I mean, possibly more than that. So depending upon how long it takes Microsoft to apply some of the things, you know what I mean? Some of the percentages don't increase within 24 hours if it takes Microsoft longer to apply some of the actions.
Okay.
So, Amanda, comment from Sam in chat. Nice. So can we run the benchmarks before applying them?
Yes. So you can see I only have 2 connected organizations, unfortunately, but you can see this one, this organization here doesn't have any snapshots applied to it, but it's still going to tell me how it relates to the snapshots that are available.
Looks really good, Amanda. Great job as always.
Thanks. And this is more of what will be updated in the reports too. And so once that's completed in the reports, I'll show you guys, but we keep iterating on it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Really, really good. I gotta imagine for those that are doing co-managed that type of interface and that type of functionality is really well received. Is anybody doing co-managed with this? And I'm just curious. What do you find, Enrique, with that kind of stuff?
All right, I lost the first question. I heard towards the end and we were doing co-managed with it, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, with the great work Amanda's doing, like that kind of functionality, my impression would be your co-managed customers being able to do those things. That would be a really huge benefit to them.
yes, but in that regard, they kind of just blindly say, you do it. They don't fully understand. And sometimes I don't fully understand, but Ben does. So, but the value it's amazing. I was going to ask one question. How long the historical data for the drift, how long will it be available?
Yeah, so the drift's only going to be once you've applied the policy. And so it'll be from the start date of the policy being applied until X. Like I said, it'll default to the last week.
Any way to keep historical data?
So yes, you can change the date range, but it'll again be the start date will be once you've applied the policy, because only then would we know the drift. So if I take that snapshot today and I apply it to the organization today, my drift count starts as of May 15th because we only know when you're no longer against those policies from that day. You know what I mean?
Correct. But if a year down the road, I want to see historical data on any drifts that happen along the way, will I be able to see that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The date range can be altered. It defaults to the last week, but the doesn't start to the day you apply the snapshot.
Okay.
Stephen, you want to ask Amanda that? It's a good question.
Yeah, I really like the snapshots and the conditional access and just being able to manage those there. I think it's real great. Trusted locations would be awesome to see in there. But yeah, it makes me think for our clients that have Intune, like one thing we had happen is a co-managed admin changed like a Windows Hello setting this week, and it was somewhat impactful. And so I'm thinking about like changes that could be made at some of these different levels.
Yeah, so
if
Stephen,
Intune would be possible.
yeah, Stephen, as you and I chatted back when you were doing the beta, Intune is the next thing that's coming for Fortify and snapshots. So we will be
Oh,
able
that's great.
to import Intune policies, and you'll be able to then apply those en masse to other organizations. So if someone were to do that, you'd at least then see who applied that Intune snapshot here and what date, and you'd be able to backtrack who did it. As far as someone else going in to an actual tenant and doing something on their own on the Microsoft side, we wouldn't have that in the Fortify screen per se.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's definitely some levels to it, but that sounds great.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is like the benchmarking will also be available against the Intune policies. So if someone were to do one of those, I guess you could kind of infer it from the benchmark too, but if they're doing it outside of Fortify, we wouldn't really know.
Okay, for the drift detection. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Hey, Steven, I've got a quick question for you. What was the overlap between the Windows Hello change and Intune?
I think it may have just been I was thinking it might have been part of that area, but I don't even think it's in that section. I'm just thinking about all the different places these changes can happen. So yeah, that might have been just an Entra settings, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking about if we could snapshot settings at some of these different levels, that would be, kind of cool.
So follow-on question is, and you'd think I'd know the answer to this, but I don't know everything anymore about our own product. It's gotten too big and I'm in hands in too many pies. Did that policy change get picked up as an administrative policy change event, as a regular event in SaaS Alerts? Not an alert. It wouldn't necessarily be an alert.
An admin policy change. I'll go
Yes.
back and look.
Yeah, circle up with us on that if you would, and let Adam know. He's sitting there on mute with his keys behind him, but Adam, you may not know this, but Adam is now the technical manager on the managed product, on the original product, as Liron has moved up and on to other stuff. So anytime we identify a new event that we should be getting, that we aren't, Adam is the man to get that information.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll try to, it'd be like an admin change that could be a cool event.
Yeah, it should be
key on.
picked up because we catch every admin change. I've just never seen that exact one.
Okay, I'll see if I can locate that. Thanks.
Terrific.
Amanda, Rich says, is there an alert generated for drift?
Is there an alert generated for what?
On drift.
Probably not. So like I said, the way that it's working is that we apply every 24 hours. And so if something were to go out of sync like right now, and we captured that the policy wasn't applied, overnight it's going to try to reapply. So it's like a self-healing drift. And so only if there's an issue with the policy, like there's an error, there's a sync problem, will you see the sync error on the logs. Otherwise, it's just going to reapply and it'll show you that dip and then come back up. So it depends, I guess, is my answer, right? Depending upon why it's drifting, there might be something in the log or there might be nothing because it'll self-heal itself overnight.
Got it.
But Andrew, there's not an event for drift, because drift is a concept of tracking change over time, right? Giving you a visual representation. Again, just like the question I just asked Stephen, there should be an event when an admin goes in and changes a policy, and that action is what causes drift. Right, Adam? I see you smirking back there.
I'm smirking about the chat with Amanda I'm having on the other side, where she told me that I'm now doing events and I don't do events.
What kind of events are we talking about, Adam?
When Chip said that I had been promoted to take care of manage, that part's true. But creating new events, Chip, if you remember, I'm not allowed to because I bungled them all originally. So
that's true. And
we put the more responsible person.
Amanda is the person who actually creates them, but Adam,
Yes.
it is your job to make sure that these things are on everyone's radar. So
Yes.
that's why we see so much of Amanda on these calls, because Amanda is, sits behind a lot of the creation of this stuff and virtually all of our events. She's the one who defines them across all products, not just 365. So
Good stuff. Thanks, Amanda. Great job.
Yeah.
All right. Adam as Liron and looking at search parameters, correct?
Yes, that is me. All right. So if you'll notice, the screen looks a little different. Might even look broken for analysis, but we've added a few new features. We have the ability to expand and collapse so we can see more of the table. But more importantly, if y'all logged into our platform today, you may have been surprised by this new screen. This was released this morning. The goal being that we are going to provide you a lot more ways to slice and dice your data, as well as the ability to make changes and rerun the report without leaving the screen. So the ability to drill in. So I'll use an example here, and then I'll have a little Easter egg in here too. And the smart, not necessarily smart, the detail-oriented people may notice the difference. So I can come in here and I'm going to go and select dates. And you'll notice we have time now as well. So if you're really trying to drill in, you'll be able to pick a start and end time. And based on last week, you'll know that even if we get more than 50,000 results, we are going to present you the first 50,000 and allow you to further cut things up a little bit. In this instance, I didn't go over 50,000, but if it would have, we would have shown it. If you'll notice the difference, and you may have noticed before, but we have this run report now button, whereas we did not before. You had to keep doing it kind of over and over again. And every time you made a change, the table down here would disappear. That is not the case now. So I'm going to go ahead and let's add in a new product. And by the way, I can hit run report. I also have the ability to continue to filter items. So once this generates again, and I have a very large window here, so it's a little slow in that respect. But the next item is, you know what, maybe I want to look at specific Unify statuses, and I can come in here and I can kind of add those in here, and let's rerun the report. And maybe, let's see, let me go and say, you know what, I'm looking for a specific user. Let me go ahead, I can filter that the way I normally have. And so if you noticed, I didn't have to clear the report. I didn't have to refresh. I didn't have to do anything. And I'll pause here for a second and see if anybody notices anything interesting about the results where they may not have seen this type of thing in the results before. I'll give you like 3 or 4 seconds.
Adam's playing Mystery Science Theater here.
Yeah. All right.
I think the
So,
Android
So
one.
I see Android data.
Yeah.
Oh,
Android.
looky there. So one of the things that I've been working on in the background for a while is supporting Microsoft devices. So coming soon, you guys will start seeing the ability for Microsoft to be one of the sources for devices, not just your RMMs. And in doing that, I figured, why not allow mobile too? So we've, for a long time, filtered out mobile or kind of just disregarded it. This will be the first step in getting mobile rolled out. So the big news here is the analysis update here. The other thing that you'll notice is we have the ability to do knots. So now if I click this thing, I can actually filter out IP addresses or filter out other items that you may not want to see in your results. So that is the quick update. I did see somebody say, I'm not seeing it yet, Rich. I learned something new today. If you hit to open up the little dev tools over here on my computer, it's F12, and you come up to the top of the browser and you hold this down and you hold down on the refresh, you can do an empty cache and hard reload. And when you do that, that forces you to go and get the latest and greatest everything without loading it from your cache locally. And sometimes in our applications, when we do releases, doing a hard refresh like that will cause the magic to happen. So you might give that a shot. And if it's still not seeing it, Gremlins are probably the answer, and the support would be the place to go.
Adam.
Andy, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Great work. A question, when you run it through the current moment, is there any way for us to know the last data element or latest feed that you got from Microsoft, so we could say, hey, look, this is as of 10:41 a.m. Pacific time today?
Yes and no. So not really that obvious, but in all of our results, we do have a field called pull time. And so you can, in fact, look for pull time, and that's going to show you the date range that we this particular event came in from.
So this is telling me when I requested it or when you got it from Microsoft.
This tells us when we grabbed it from Microsoft.
Okay, thank you.
Adam, when you said we're going to start to bring in mobile, do you mean monitoring alert events and things of that in mobile, or can you define?
Good question. Yeah, good question. So we've always had mobile events, events that were created by a mobile device, but we never did anything with Unify to be able to correlate the data to a mobile device. And so now, as we start bringing this in, the Unify column will start having references to mobile devices as well as the standard desktops and servers we've done before.
Got it. I mean, is it truly that person using that device, if you will?
Should be. Yeah, that's the piece that, more and more data starts to answer those questions. But what it effectively doing is doing the same thing that the Unify was doing for the desktops. It's coming in. Let me see if I can find that one again. It's coming in and saying, hey, based on the Microsoft event, I saw this IP address, I saw this device name, this Entra device ID, and then we're going into Unify and we are finding the device that matches that best. And we're offering it up as, hey, based on everything we know and the correlation and the machine learning that we're doing, this is the device that performed that item. So now, for instance, at my house, I might have my mobile and my desktop, and they both have the same public IP, and they have the same user and things like that. But now we can see the OS is actually Android for work here, and we'll start making the correlation on mobile devices as well.
Can't wait to show you guys something in a minute. But Andy, Enrique, hold on a second. Claudio, you had a question about data RMM. Do you have a mic, or do you want me to ask it for you?
Hello.
I see the question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I saw that on a previous meeting that there is a way to block access to Office 365 mailbox if the device is not in my data RMM.
Trying to think of how I would put that together. I think there's a Fortify piece that could be there with access policies, might be in the future. In our world, we'd likely do that with Respond. And I don't know the answer to this, Amanda. You might have to step in here, but I know that in Respond, we can tell it to look for known devices only, which any of these devices would be known. I don't know that I can specifically say known from data RMM. And I think that would be an additional filter potentially. But
Right. It's just known. It's not known by product right now.
right.
Okay, so I guess the device will need to be known in Intune.
It could be known in Intune right now. It could be known in Datto EDR. It could be known in Datto RMM. It could be known in any product. So inside Unify, let me grab some unmapped. So inside Unify, in this instance, I have Microsoft and Ninja One. So the known versus unknown just means it's in this table and we see it in one of the products that we monitor.
I think, guys, I'm interpreting Claudio's question as I read it a little differently than you have, Amanda and Adam. I think Claudio has just stepped into the world of Andy Rowe, and what he's asking us to do is he's asking us to create an action either in Respond or a policy in Fortify that says, all right, I'm going to walk through the logic real quick. Okay, SaaS Alerts, build a table of all the devices that are known in data RMMN. And if any device that's not there, we want you to create a conditional access policy for us to block it from accessing 365. I see, Andy's flipping out up there because now he thinks he has a compatriot.
Well, I want to
Claudio,
say,
is that what you're asking for? Do I describe that correctly?
Yeah, there'll be essentially for that the cookie theft event where the hacker might have copied the session and try to access the account from a different device. Won't this protect us from the hacker using the session?
Yeah. So what you're describing there is definitely it's actually cross functionality between both Respond and Fortify.
May I ask this, Chip? And that is, I was going to ask about whitelist or blacklisting of mobile devices, because it's possible the device was added into Intune not by intentionally, but it was a part of a hack in getting in. And so that's where I'm coming from on this one with mobile devices.
I mean, both of these requests, what you describe and what Claudio has written down here, or at least my interpretation of it, falls under Fortify setting up conditional access rules based upon these conditions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Can you hold that, Enrique, hold that thought. I want to show, can I share my screen?
I'm on QA, by the way, everyone. Yeah, I don't know why I'm on QA. I was going to show you the rules that we already have, but
right, go.
Somebody had a question, Enrique?
No. You were going to show something?
Andrew
I was going
gonna
to show you
something
rules
first.
Yeah, I was going to show you the rules that we have in Respond that will reset session tokens and potentially lock accounts out based on unknown devices logging in, which is not exactly the Fortify functionality. We're going to catch it after the fact,
right?
But versus prevention, and so we're halfway there today. We're not all the way there yet, Claudio.
So would you allow me, Enrique, 1 minute? I want to come back to you, but Adam, can I share my screen for 2 seconds?
Yeah, please. I'm done.
That's fantastic. Chip, this is, so I'm going to go through some of this today. We probably won't go through all of it, but why this is so, like, I'm like giddy over what you guys are doing. This is from the Verizon DB. This is DBIR 2025. Obviously, this data comes from 2024. They're always, in essence, a calendar year behind, right, Chip? Because they're aggregating all of the, 40, 50,000 breaches, right, over the course of a calendar year. But this particular piece of the DBIR speaks specifically to what you guys are building. 46% of so you look at credentials and in terms of, we talk about this all the time, right? Credential theft, Chip, right? And we know that InfoStealer malware is one of the major sources of credential theft. And then the data point, though, that's really interesting is they're just looking at the breaches from a different angle. And what they found in the InfoStealer malware was 46% of those systems involved in a breach or data compromised were non-managed, right? In other words, they were accessing corporate data, but they were non-managed. Well, what could you hypothesize? Literally just what we're talking about right here. The hypothesis is these were BYOD devices, mobile, more than likely, that were compromised, that are now accessing corporate data. So really cool what Adam, what you and team are focusing on building, because this is one of the major areas of compromise from this report this year.
Yeah, it's such a good insight, Andy. I love Andrew. I love the way you stitched it together. Look, we've talked for a while about using Fortify to set conditional access rules. Before Claudio brought up his question, it actually never occurred to me to use the RMM as a data source to do that. And I love it, actually. I think it's really cool. I see Adam nodding his head up and down. So, Claudio, you definitely get the Andy Rowe Innovation Award for this call. So,
yes, yeah,
well done.
I'll take it. So can we do it?
When you hear that much enthusiasm from me for an idea on a SASE call, you can be sure it's going to get on the roadmap.
Yeah, we just got to figure out how. But
we will.
That's a very interesting, concept.
All right, Enrique, you've been patient. Thank you.
Man, you put a lot of trust in me, Andrew, to not forget my thoughts. So I'll try to do my best. I forget everything, so I had to really focus. So going back to the devices, Adam, will we be able to use this? You know, today someone travels overseas. We're trying to educate everyone to open a ticket and let us know, so we whitelist them. But if they're on their iPhone or their Android, now that we have this data, would we be able to put, or Ben's team be able to put exclusions to say, don't cut their head off if they're on this device?
So not exactly unifying devices, but you're touching on a feature that is about 80% done in dev. And so that usually means 60 to 90 days for QA and testing and all those things, called advanced event suppression. And advanced event suppression will allow you to effectively select any of an event's fields or near any of an event's fields and say, if you see these, then we're fine. So for instance, you could say chip on an Android coming from SpaceX or Starlink is a normal thing for us. And you can schedule it around somebody's PTO. So you could say, if you see it show up in France, then that's expected.
I don't want chip on an Android. I want chip on his Android, like the one we just saw.
That would be great if the hardware manufacturers would give us any type of identifying information through events. Like Microsoft is not providing us like actual event or device IDs. Like
Yeah,
a true
IMEA numbers are not coming through.
The Mac IDs are not Mac address. Mac is not coming through.
The immutable ID, nothing's coming through.
No, if there were, it would be a wonderful thing. The closest that I've seen so far in playing with the mobile device data is that a device that is registered will have an onto-device ID, and that onto-device ID will be presented through many of the events that we get from Microsoft. So in that instance, Unify will tie the connection between the mobile device and the event that's occurring.
So we're using
Yeah,
Intune
that's
as the
what we're going to try
MDN
to
and not
do.
just
Force
join.
like a Intune registration, maybe. Yeah.
I was going to make the point earlier when Amanda was talking about Intune that, you know, you've seen us really try and push the community toward using Entra to at least to register devices, and Intune takes that to the next level in terms of granularity of data and ability to control more about the mobile device. You know, we absolutely foresee, as Amanda has already answered in the chat, that as we roll out Intune in Unify, that we'll be encouraging people to use that data to set very, very hard rules about what devices can be used to access and boot them out if it's not that device. Boot the account out if it's not that specific device.
Okay, my second question for Adam really quickly. If Claudio's suggestion, Chip's adoption methodology of doing RMM agents is up and running, could that eliminate us needing to run the script to link the user to a device to then try to do the reverse mapping of mapping the device via the user?
Yeah, good question. So by using Microsoft devices, when we finally release it, it would reduce the need to do that. I would argue continuing to do that provides additional assurity that the thing is the thing. So in my world, what I see happening pretty soon is an event will come in and it won't just say, hey, we see this device on Microsoft that matches the best. I actually see it saying, we see Microsoft device and this RMM device and this EDR device, and they all agree. And that provides you a level of certainty more than just a single product saying it's the person. Because as somebody mentioned earlier, you could have somebody register a device into Microsoft without maybe you knowing that it happened. Whereas I think in RMM, you guys should have a lot better policy on allowing agents to check in and be registered.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. And by the way, this is totally anecdotal, but this is, you know, we do the CIS workshop where, you know, mastery course, Enrique, which you're part of, and I think some of the others are. We talk about this a lot, right, Enrique, which is the shared responsibility model. And I think we've spoken about this a bit as well. And this is where policy and working with the customer really comes in. Like, if they're unwilling for you to be able to manage their mobile devices and they're accessing corporate data, that's where you guys got to put your foot down, in terms of what you're going to take on responsibility for in your MSA and what you're not. So, you can do.
We're going all into heavy, getting rid of RMM.
Yep. So, all right. I know it's 1:58. So, Chip, we wanted to talk a little bit about the course and the certification, but I think with only probably sub 2 minutes, we should probably hold off till next week.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. We should have Ben here with us too and start doing a group brainstorm on what content's going to look like at next year's ROB.
Yes.
Which I have already committed to going to. I promised Andrew 10 days ago.
Wow.
Even face to face that I promised him. So I'm really stuck on having to live up to that commitment.
But on counterpart, Andy, I have to have a jet stream, silver stream.
Oh yeah, it's going to cost you, and he has to shuttle him in from the desert.
God, that's a great idea.
Shuttle him in from the desert because he's not going to stay at the hotel.
Put me in a camper outside in the desert. Enrique, can you bring your 54-foot land yacht?
I'll take it.
Oh, then I don't have to stay in a hotel. That would be great.
Yeah. By the way, Rich, yes, we're thinking of, just real quick with the minute left. So what we're going to do, on Tuesday night, we always run these, what we call pre-day events. So we're going to create a certification workshop for SaaS Alerts, where Ben and Chip will walk through, pretty much start to finish. You're going to become a day in the life of managed SaaS Alerts user, right? How to create IOCs, like what Ben and team do on a daily basis at a high level. And at the end, take some tests and have a certification. So we want to make sure that, this year's Right of Boom, there's like real tangible things that you're coming there for, that you can walk away with saying, we did this with SaaS Alerts, or we did this vCISO workshop with EC Council. We're adding all bunch of more very tangible things that you can get at the event. So if that answers your question, Rich.
One last question before we drop. I think today's a very important day, the 15th. Was something going to release on the 15th?
Yeah,
Chip, Adam and Company. Something that starts with a K and follows with an S.
KSIM has begun onboarding as of yesterday. Actually, the very first onboarding took place yesterday. And we are already refining onboarding processes from that. For anyone who signed up for KSIM, we are very appreciative of you guys taking the 50% off offer in exchange for giving us lots of feedback in this limited release cycle. And look, it's how we've done everything with SaaS Alerts. It's building a better and better product through this community, and we're doing the same thing with KSIM and anything else we touch inside Kaseya. So,
do you know anyone that could push me up the list to get into the club?
I do know people.
Let me know. I signed up, so I should be on someone's list.
So what you're saying is you're ready, Enrique, and if Ben
I'm always ready.
If Ben were here, you'd be boxing him right on the ears. Ben, why wasn't that your first choice?
Yes. I'm still going to do it anyway on Tuesday's call, but that's a different story.
There you go.
Awesome. Great to hear you're starting.
I think it's a wrap. That was a very interesting call.
That was a great call.
It went a totally different way than I expected. So that was awesome.
Hey, enjoy the concerts, Chip. Have a great
I definitely will. I'll report back. I'll post photos for a few.
Yes, absolutely.
See you, everybody.
A great one.
Stay safe, guys. Bye-bye.